Mapaila will be with us, the DGS. If he has not joined us yet, but he will be with us here. Comrade Chris will be here. We are all led by the General Secretary, Comrade Blayton Nzimande, who's part of this 1999 years anniversary celebration. We will also be launching, by the way, also the centenary. So we're moving towards our 100 years. Yes, there are also leaders of the Alliance that are present here, which we're welcoming. We are going to have...
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. South Africa is a sports-mad country, but it's failing when it comes to women.
We are going to be joined by the Alliance leaders, who will also be leading the messages of support. From the ANC side, there's Comrade Zweli Mkhize, who's the NWC, and NEC will be here as well. We have the first president who's with us here, Comrade Mike Shingai. We also have our Young Communist League of South Africa, that they will be led by Comrade National Secretary, that is Comrade Dinyego Mdini, who's part of us and who will also deliver the message. I need to thank every leader in the provinces, in the districts, and in the branches of the party who are part of this and who made it necessary to celebrate it. We know, comrades, that we're undergoing a difficult time where there is a coronavirus that is sweeping the entire world. But we do not allow it to stop every work that we have to do. I mean, the National Democratic Revolution should still be on course. We will be proceeding, and I really want to thank all other people who have joined us, the international community as well that will be part of this. The only issue that I need to really emphasize and raise is that, comrades, because we're on a visual platform today, unfortunately, we'll just have to... through, Alex. The only issue, welcome Comrade Soli, we have already started. The only issue I would need to emphasize, comrades, is that we would have to observe the body time. We'll have to be extremely disciplined, and we'll have to stick to the time, because the visual platform just requires us to do that. And I humbly request every comrade that is going to participate to ensure that they do it as such. And I'll appreciate that very, very, very much. Of course, comrades, I've taken you through the thing, I've done all, and because I also have to stick to time, I will immediately request that we move to observe the international. Comrade Alex, can I be assisted that we actually have the international so that we proceed with the program? I'll outline the program as soon as we're finished with the international. Is there a technical problem, comrades? We need to observe the international and then move to the program. Otherwise, in the meantime, are you ready? I will be stopped by the international once it's ready. Just go on.
I have unmuted, Comrade.
Comrade Vonani, you can start. We can't hear you.
Arise, you prisoners of salvation. Arise, you toilers of the air. For risen thunders you create.
Comrade Joyce, we have a problem from Comrade Vonani's side. We can't hear him.
Some
At
of us
all.
can, though.
His microphone seems not to be connected to the device that he is using. Okay.
You.
Yes, Comrade Bonani, you can start. Comrade Joyce, may you kindly proceed with the program? Clearly, we can't hear Comrade Vonani. There is a problem from his side.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Arise, you prisoners of starvation. Arise, you toilers of the air. For risen thunders new creation. 'Tis a better world in birth. Nevermore tradition change shall bind us. Arise, you toilers, no more in throne. The earth shall rise on new foundation. We are but not, we shall be whole. Then comrades run. 'Tis the last fight we face. They unites the human race. Then comrades run. 'Tis the last fight we face. The international unites the human race.
May you unmute yourself, Comrade Joyce, please? Comrade Joyce? Thank you. We can hear you now.
Thank you. All right. I've outlined that from the side of the officials, we do have the first DGS. We have also the second DGS. First DGS, Comrade Solima Paila, is also going to follow from now to actually give us the outline of who is part of us here. Otherwise, then we'll roll out the program. Without wasting any time, comrades, one would like to proceed and allow Comrade First DGS, Comrade Solima Paila, to do the welcoming and to acknowledge all the guests that are part of us now. Comrade Soli.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. Just to greet all comrades, the General Secretary of the Communist Party, Comrade Blade Nzimande, who's here with us, will give us our main address on behalf of the Central Committee of the Communist Party. Our National Treasurer, Comrade Joyce Moropa, who's the chair of the session. We have our second Deputy General Secretary, Comrade Chris Mahlaku, who's also part of this program. Members of our Central Committee, a whole lot of them. Comrade Alex, who has connected us, who has been at the background with the processes. Then we have the leadership of the African National Congress, which will be represented by Comrade Dr. Zweli Mkhize, and others who have joined us on the platform, and Comrade Mike Chingange from COSATU, the first Deputy President of COSATU, who will also speak on behalf of the Federation. And other comrades from COSATU have joined the platform as well. Then we have the National Secretary of our Young Communist League, Comrade Tinyeko Ntini, and is also joined by a number of national committee members of our Young Communist League. But Comrade Tinyeko will also give a message in this important anniversary program. Then the General Secretary in the province is joined by our provincial leadership of Moses Mabhida, led by Comrade Themba Mthembu, the Provincial Secretary, and other members, including our support team there, where he is located in terms of this process. Otherwise, we welcome all other comrades, including our international comrades who have joined us from different platforms for this important celebration of the SACP's 99th anniversary. By itself, a sign of a continuous contribution in the international struggle for socialism and against capitalist exploitation of the working class and even of nature. Hence today we have so many unending pandemics. But otherwise, thank you very much, Comrade Chair. That was my plea.
Comrade Soli, our first DGS, thank you very much. Can I request, comrades, before I proceed and call the Young Communist of South Africa National Secretary, Comrade Dini, before I do that, can I request that we observe just a moment of silence in remembrance of all the comrades that have left us. Comrades will remember, just this week we were burying Comrade Andrew Mlangeni, one of our stalwarts. We know that we have lost so many in the midst, and we would like to just observe a moment of silence. Thank you very much, comrades. Without any waste of time, when one will be calling for the young people of this country to swell the ranks of the Young Communist League, I will actually call the YCL of South Africa National Secretary to be able to give us the message of support for this 99th anniversary. Comrade Dineko, over to you.
No thanks, Program Director, Comrade Joyce, our National Treasurer. Greetings to the General Sec, Comrade Blade, and all office bearers. Our National Chairperson of the YCL, Comrade Mabuse, and all National Committee members. The COSATU First Deputy President, Comrade Mike, the ANC NWC member, Comrade Zweli Mkhize, all the structures of the party and the movement across the country. Indeed, Comrade Program Director, today we're here to celebrate the 99th anniversary of our party, the only vanguard of the working class in the country and the first in the African continent. And indeed, it's not by mistake that today we celebrate the 99 fighting years characterized by active campaigning, the armed struggle, and the fight against post-1994 neoliberal policies and the anti-state capture campaigns that today resulted in seeing even remnants of the parasitic network launching a fight back in our country. We pay tribute to the heroes and heroines who lost their lives in the battlefield against the COVID-19 pandemic. As we can see, this is one of its kind, where we celebrate this anniversary virtually because of this pandemic. But indeed, we must be able to pay tribute to the health workers and those that are in the battlefield fighting against this particular pandemic. I see it's myself and Comrade Mike, at least to a part of the survivors states, Comrade Zweli, who have recovered very well from this particular pandemic. Our party indeed was the first non-racial organization in the continent. Since its formation, it has always advocated for a non-racial, non-sexist society. And it was not a shock even when it was instrumental into the 1922 mine workers strike. And the position of the party and the YSL has always been very clear even from there, where we're opposed to the theme that was centered around that particular struggle. And since then, the party has always waged a struggle side by side with other progressive organizations to liberate this country. And indeed, it was very instrumental even to the formation of the MK at the times. And it never came as a shock when the party was the first organization to be banned in the country. And indeed, this really shows the struggles that the organization has been able to wage. And so far, there's no organization, Comrade Chair, that we can say it has been consistent in deepening, advancing, and defending the national democratic revolution more than the Communist Party. And indeed, we pride ourselves. Today, indeed, we correctly locate this point. We prove our argument that there's a need to continue to fight and make sure that we unite our movement, we unite the working class, unite the Progressive Youth Alliance, and we need to isolate the criminal and the corrupt elements in our movement, and we must continue to be firm, because the anti-corruption campaign has been a long-standing campaign of the party, and we must never choose to say who participates into these particular shenanigans that are happening. We need to come out strongly and condemn, because it's so shameful that while everyone is so stressed and fighting against this invisible enemy, there are those that have seen an opportunity to enrich themselves. There are those that have seen this as an opportunity to be overnight millionaires. And I think it's high time that we need to wage the struggle and make sure that all our structures stand against these particular things. And we must say, Comrade Chair, that it does not come as a shock, because there's always been a symbiotic relationship between factionalism and corruption. And we have seen over the years what indeed these foreign tendencies have collapsed our movement and weakened the fighting spirit of our Revolutionary Liberation Alliance. But again, I think it's very much important for us to say, as we celebrate these 99 years, the party is always very critical and has been very clear to characterize and analyze situations. And what we are faced with today, where we see even the re-emergence and the hegemony of the neoliberal agenda starting to entrench itself within our state, and even the policies that comes, which are not necessarily very key for the working class. And this is not for the first time. The party has been vocal, has been clear against the class project. And I think that even at this particular time, we will continue to make sure that as we celebrate the 99 years and towards the centenary, we continue to keep the red flag high and make sure that we unite the trade union movement, we unite the working class, because the working class is yearning for leadership and the working class is under siege. So we can't keep quiet, and the vanguard of the working class, which is the party, as it celebrates this milestone, and again today declaring the 100-year, the centenary program, which obviously from as early as January we'll be celebrating. These are some of the victories that we need to reflect on and make sure that again as the party we continue to lead the struggles of the working class, and indeed the working class, wherever they are, they must be comfortable with their leadership and see that we are still committed to advance their struggles, we are still committed to advance anti-corruption campaign, we are still committed to confront neoliberalism, we are still committed to confront any parasitic network elements that are still there, and we unite and reclaim our movement. And with these words, Comrade Program Director, we want to wish our party a very successful 99th anniversary. And indeed, as we launch the centenary program, to say that the party of the working class must continue being the party of the working class. And as we head to our centenary, there is a best gift that the party must indeed give to Moses Kotane, to Chris Hani, and make sure that the working class is united. Mandla, thank you.
Thanks, Ufasimba, the young leader for our Young Communist League. Thank you very much, Comrade Dineko. Comrades, I just need to indicate that we are left with only less than 20 minutes towards our main message. And I will request the coming speakers to try to be as brief as possible so that we are able to make it on time for our main message, which will be at exactly 12 o'clock. And therefore, I will quickly and speedily move to the first president of COSATU, who's representing the trade union today. That is Comrade Mike Shingange. I know that, of course, one of the unions, which is NEHAU, is on the forefront, on the receiving end during these current times. And COSATU will actually pass its message at the moment, and we will be dealing with all those matters together as a vanguard of the working class. Comrade Mike Shingange, first Deputy President, I'm handing over to you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Program Director, National Treasurer, Comrade Joyce. Let me greet the General Secretary of the SACP, together with the national officials of the party, the Central Committee members, and the great Kabazel, Comrade Zweli, on behalf of the ANC. I have speed myself, so don't worry, Chair, I'm going to conclude very soon. But Comrade Blade, allow me to pass a special greeting to Comrade Sole Mapaela for his other role of doubling up as a leader of COSATU when we are not there. We want okay. Thank you very much. As a COSATU, we want to indeed say we are very proud to be part of this historic moment when the party is nearing its centenary. Not only that the party celebrates 99 years of existence, but the party is moving towards 100 years of existence, something that many organizations in the African continent and the world are not able to achieve. We are very proud as the Federation to be part of our history together with our vanguard and the struggles that we have waged and continue to wage together. It was the party that shaped the theoretical understanding of the liberation movement in this country and all the progressives that fought to liberate this country. It is the party that shaped many of the economic policies that catapult the liberation movement into coming into government. For that, we remain internally grateful to the South African Communist Party. We know of the role, and we're beneficiaries as a federation of the role the party has played in building the working class, particularly the trade union movement in this country, both organizationally, but also political development. It would not have been possible if it was not for the party to have so many stalwarts of trade union movement that became leaders of our society in various spheres of life, including in government, including in the ANC, and even in the party. And we want to urge the party to take this moment to continue to do the very same thing going forward, because the road ahead shall require a politically clarified activist of our country. We also want to say that the convening and the meeting today, it shows the resilience of the party, that no amount of a crisis, no amount of uncertainty in the world shall deter the vanguard of convening and observing this momentous history of the 99 years. Two last points that we want to pass as a federation. One is that we are currently engaged in a struggle to reimagine what is called a new normal. We did imagine in the past.
They were facing participating in a gathering with the intention to incite public violence or bigotry, as you may say. Then there was a second charge, which unfortunately was not put to the accused persons at the police station, which was a charge of violating COVID regulation by unnecessary.
Okay, Comrade Mai. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I was saying, Comrade Chair, that we always imagine that the COVID-19 will pose a very serious economic crisis going forward, and it's going to need what we call a new normal. We knew that the new normal is going to be a struggle between the capital and also the working class. And we knew that the new normal is going to be a product of the victory of that struggle by one class over the other. What we want to say that going forward as a party is that we must lead all the progressives to indeed shape what that new normal is supposed to look like, because other classes are going to want to shape that new normal for their own interest, to the extent that the working class and the poor are going to continue to suffer. However, what we did not imagine that COVID-19 will bring is the scourge and the catalog of corruptions that we are now witnessing in our country today. That even when people are dying like flies, even when the country, majority of South Africans are scared, people still find time and comfort in pocketing and lining up to loot the resources of our people, irrespective of the crisis that we are facing. We want the party to join us as we move into the street, as COSATU, and everywhere else, to try and expose and fight this kind of pandemic, because it's a pandemic on itself. Our view is that it can't be that the little resource that we have, even to the extent that we go to the IMF to try and get money, but still we still find time and the resources to steal. Lastly, Chair, as Comrade Pinyiko and the Chair said, war in this country of an invisible enemy called COVID-19. The soldiers of this war are the frontline workers and those public health workers. Themselves are very vulnerable, themselves are very anxious, very apprehensive. The best we can do as this country is to protect them, is to defend them, and defend their base, which is the workplaces. At no point we must allow public health institutions to be penetrated by this invisible enemy, because if that happens, we have got a very little chance of even winning it, because those workers themselves are actually under threat. And with those words, we want to say, long live the South African Communist Party, and forward to the centenary, and forward to more 100 years, because the world today you need a communist movement in order for it to be a better world, because a better world that is without capitalism, barbarism, and imperialism is possible. It can only be led by the working class, a movement like the Communist Party. Mandla.
Away to and forward. Thank you very much, Comrade Mike. The message was quite clear. We will have to move on as speedily as we can. And I'd like to introduce Comrade Zweli Mkhize, who's the NEC member of the African National Congress, and also in the NWC. Comrades would know that Comrade Zweli has been very, very busy in the current times. This is the Minister again of Health. And we're going to receive the message from the African National Congress, led by Comrade Zweli Mkhize. Comrade Zweli, over to you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Program Director. May I salute and greet the General Secretary, Comrade Blayton Zimande, Deputy Secretary, Comrade Mapaila, the members of the Central Committee and all the structures of the Communist Party, the First Deputy President, Comrade Shinange of COSATU, and all the alliance partners present and members and structures of our revolutionary movement. The ANC congratulates the South African Communist Party on achieving this landmark of 99 years being at the center of the National Democratic Revolution as part of the ANC-led alliance. It is an honor and privilege to address you today, therefore, on behalf of the ANC to congratulate this organization coming from a long-standing ally, the African National Congress. We have come a long way with the South African Communist Party. From inception, the Communist Party correctly analyzed the political situation in our country and resolved to mobilize the working class and build partnership with progressive political formations to galvanize the masses of our people into a formidable force of liberation. Over the years of the existence of the Communist Party, it has been a trusted ally of the ANC and an equal partner in the alliance, without which significant victories would have been insurmountable in our treacherous journey of our liberation struggle. The Communist Party has always been an integral part of the conceptualization and prosecution of major campaigns that shaped our liberation struggle in response to the onslaught of the apartheid regime in an effort to annihilate our forces and frustrate our people's aspirations for democracy and freedom. So the Communist Party has played a significant role in the landmark activities that were a signal of the intensification of our struggle, such as the Defiance Campaign, the mobilization leading to the adoption of the Freedom Charter, the formation of Umkhonto weSizwe, mobilization of international solidarity and support for our struggle, especially from socialist countries, the establishment of the liberation movement after the unbanning, as well as the participation in the negotiation. In short, because of the uniqueness of our alliance, the Communist Party has been part of all the victories of the ANC and its alliance partners, celebrating the joys of our victories and sharing the feelings of sadness and the pain where the ANC suffered setbacks. At best, the best characterization of this relationship is found in a statement by President Oliver Tambo, who says, and I quote, "Ours is not a paper alliance created at conference tables and formalized through signing of documents and representing only the agreement of leaders. Ours is a living organism that has grown out of struggle. We have built it out of our separate common experiences," unquote. This is the strength of the alliance, excuse me, is the understanding and respect of the different histories and roles and responsibilities of each partner with it, which are distinct. This has ensured that the SACP, a Marxist-Leninist party and a vanguard movement for the working class, were equal members of the African National Congress, a national liberation movement that mobilizes all classes, strata, and sectors of society, in partnership with COSATU, which organizes the workers around the working conditions, and lately including South African National Civic Organization, which focus on civic issues involving the residents. This unique relationship enabled the Communist Party to contribute in the thoughts and theory of the revolution and the development of many leaders we share. And today we pay special tribute of these generations of working class leaders, amongst them comrades Moses Kotane, J.P. Marx, Harry Kwala, Chris Hani, Elijah Bahai. The list is endless, and all of them served every one of our revolutionary organs with distinction. But the combined experience and lessons from our forebears demonstrated that alliance partners, we are stronger when we work together. The best outcomes have been achieved from our united action. Over the years, we've supported one another. It is correct that we continue to influence one another. This approach has saved our struggle and averted serious crises that our country has faced. Our partnership was created to build strong foundation for a positive future characterized by democracy, peaceful coexistence, unity, non-sexism, equality, freedom, justice, and prosperity. While the ANC and the SACP have not always seen eye to eye, our history has proven that when we are together, we can achieve what we can achieve is endless. We brought together the ruthless unjust system. We brought it down, the ruthless and unjust system, and changed the trajectory of the entire country, and then changed the lives of many millions of our people. But our forebears knew this to be true, many of them holding mass for both parties, the ANC and the SACP. And this continues today, and I want to say we have to commend you for continuing this very noble tradition of our forebears. It is important also that it's normal for us to understand that partners can always disagree, but disagreements are not supposed to be seen as antagonistic differences. It's important that we never allow adversaries and detractors to take advantage of those differences and divide us. Such arguments between us must always be a reflection of healthy contestation of ideas. President Nelson Mandela, addressing the SACP in 1995, said as follows, and I will quote, "It's a relationship that has detractors in abundance, a relationship that has its prolific obituary scribes, but it is a relationship that always disappoints these experts because it was tempered in struggle. It is written in the blood of many martyrs." Unquote. So we need to work together to uproot the demons of factionalism that's slowly taken root in our structures. Factionalism in the ANC means factionalism in the Communist Party. We have to work together to rid our organization of this demon. Rampant corruption is threatening to tear our structures and is eroding the deep trust and confidence our people have in our movement. These have to be ruthlessly tackled by the alliance partners with the same vigor that we used to fight against apartheid. We know that we celebrate important birthday where the fault lines of poverty, hunger, joblessness have exposed our flanks. We need to close our ranks in search of our solutions to rebuild our ailing economy and eradicate inequality. We need to unite as we transform our economy to become more inclusive and stimulate growth, eradicate squalor in rural areas and peri-urban centers. We have to work together to improve our education, to build a universal health coverage through the national health insurance. It is time also that 1 year before the SACP celebrates its centenary, is called upon again to aid the movement in yet another fight, and that's a fight, a common enemy against COVID-19. To date, more than 500,000 positive cases and over 8,000 people that have died. We have to work together to fight this new pandemic. We have to also work together to save our workers who are in the front line of fighting against COVID, protecting them and making sure that none of them go to war without the proper equipment and proper training. And all of this means we have to work together because it's part of the challenges that we have to work together to ensure that we create a prosperous South Africa. As we stand here today, we want to commend the support that we have received from the Cuban Health Brigade, and we commend them for the solidarity and support, and we understand why there's been a call for this brigade to be nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. Comrades, in closing, let me say, this year we're celebrating a 100th anniversary for Comrade Verikwala and 25 years since the passing away of Comrade Joe Slovo. Comrade Slovo envisaged a post-apartheid South Africa enshrined in the National Democratic Revolution, which would bring to an end every sort of racial discrimination and privilege, guarantee democracy, freedom, and equality for all. We ought to take lessons from Comrade Slovo, from Comrade Slovo's demeanor and the way that he conducted himself in the movement. At this point, therefore, on behalf of the African National Congress, we wish the South African Communist Party a happy and revolutionary 99th anniversary and many more years ahead to assist in building the future of our country. Amandla, thank you very much.
Away to Thank you very much, Comrade Zweli Siyabonga. The message is received well. We had all the issues and also the participation of the Cuban doctors. It's one other area that we wanted to actually inspire the South Africans while we are striving for social now. That we can have a better South Africa. Thanks. We hope even the fight that you are fighting in the forefront there of COVID, we will as a country, because we really need to survive the coronavirus. I won't waste time, comrades. You know that ours, as the Communist Party, it's the economy for our people. Ours is to be rooted amongst the communities, the masses of our people. Ours is the vanguard of the workers and the poor. Its ideology is the international. We have the second Deputy General Secretary, Comrade Chris Mashaku, who will actually give the messages. I know that we're joined by the international communist parties and the international community on this platform, celebrating this selfless struggle of 99 years. We will really request that Comrade Mashaku immediately gets into the messages so that we move to the main message and the launch of our centenary. That will be delivered by Comrade Blade Nzimande. Comrade Chris Mashaku, over to you now.
Thank you very much, National Treasurer of the party and Program Director of this program. You will understand that these messages are very many, and we will not read the details of the messages themselves, but just to observe that indeed we have received messages of solidarity both locally and abroad. We have received messages of support as have been presented here by the African National Congress and our ally, and COSATU, also our ally. We also have received messages of support from international fora such as the Sao Paulo Forum, which represent countries' progressive forces in Latin America. We have also received messages of support from the International Meeting of Communist and Workers' Parties, which brings together progressive communist and workers' parties across the world. We have received messages of support from the embassies also located in South Africa and elsewhere. And I just want to single out one or two, three messages of support which are very important, at least for us. We've received messages of support from the Communist Party of Cuba, from the Communist Party of Canada, from the Communist Party of Venezuela, and Partido Socialidad of Venezuela. We have received messages of support from the PSOB of Brazil, KKE in Greece, from the Communist Party of Britain, SACP in Portugal, from the Communist Party of China, from the Communist Party of Vietnam. And this Comrade National Treasurer Program Director represents just a sample of our international ties and connections across the world. And all of these messages will be posted on our website, the content of which will be shared with all of our members. And with that, I want to hand over to you so that we allow the General Secretary to present the main message for the 99th anniversary of the party. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Brief enough. Thanks, Comrade NDGS, Comrade Mashaku. Comrades, we are now getting to the main message. Our General Secretary, Comrade Blade Nzimande, is ready to actually deliver this message. This is the message of the 14th Congress on the occasion of celebrating the 99th anniversary of the SACP, and also it's the official launch of our centenary program. Comrade Blade, I will actually hand over to you. Normally we would have made our songs. We miss those slogans. We miss our songs. We miss to revive ourselves. But based on the platform, I'm getting straight to you and kindly take over the platform and deliver our message. Comrade Blade.
Yes, Chair, I'm here. Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. Let me start by greeting you, Comrade Joyce Moloi Moropa, Program Director and our National Treasurer. Our first Deputy General Secretary, Comrade Sodima Paila. Our second Deputy General Secretary, Comrade Chris Mataku. Let me also greet Comrade Zwelim Kize, here representing the African National Congress as a member of its National Executive Committee. Let me also greet Comrade Mike Shingange, who is the first Deputy President of COSATU, and to thank these latter two comrades for their very wonderful and revolutionary messages on this very important occasion for us. Let me also greet Comrade Tinyi Kontini, the National Secretary of our Young Communist League, and also our host province, the Moses Mabhida province, as led by Comrade Themba Mthembu, the Provincial Secretary. And also, since I am in the Herikwala district, Pietermaritzburg otherwise, I also would like to greet Comrade Luhle Ndlovu, who is our local district secretary here. And let me greet all the comrades who have joined us and who are watching us throughout the length and breadth of our country. This week marked on the 30th of July, 2020,
Yes, we can hear you, JS.
Is my video on now?
Yes.
My apologies there. I hope I don't block it again. Comrade Chair, I was saying that this week...
You just blocked it again, GS.
Yeah, my apologies. I know where the problem is.
We can see you well now. That's great.
The problem is that I'm trying to read my speech from my screen, which means I can't do that.
Yeah.
But this week, we marked the 99th anniversary, last week, on the 30th of July, of the founding of our Communist Party. We celebrate this historic occasion, the founding of the oldest Communist Party in Africa, under the theme, learning from the past, active in the present, building the future, building socialism now. We are also celebrating our 99th anniversary in the year that we are also celebrating the centenary of a number of our departed veterans and stalwarts. This includes 2020 being the centenary of Comrade Harry Gwala, Comrade Brian Bunting, Comrade Fred Cannasin, Comrade Raymond Mhlaba, Comrade Vuyisile Mini, Comrade Rika Hodgson, Comrade Fleck Boshielo, Comrade MP Naika, Comrade Rusty Beinstein, and Comrade Hime Barrel. We say, long live their memory as we celebrate our 99 years. 99 years ago, on the 29th of July, 1921, communist militants announced the formation of the Communist Party at a public meeting that was held in Cape Town. The founding Congress of the Communist Party opened officially on the following day, which was the 30th of July 1921, at number 20 Plain Street in Cape Town. It was on that day that the resolution formally establishing the Communist Party was passed. The Congress was held over 3 days until the 1st of August, 1921. However, the formative process of the Communist Party dated back to 1914 and the outbreak of the inter-imperialist First World War. Opposition to the inter-imperialist First World War, what Lenin, by the way, at the time described as a war of thieves for control over the world, came from revolutionary wings of existing mass socialist parties in many parts of the world. Here in South Africa, Revolutionary Progressive in the South African Labour Party then broke away from that party in opposition to its reformist sellout position of joining the war in defense of the British Empire. In the name of working class internationalism against imperialism, comrades like David Ivan Jones, Bill Andrews, and S.P. Bunting established the International Socialist League, the nucleus of what would soon become the Communist Party in South Africa. In 1918, T.W. Tibedi, a member of the International Socialist League, organized the very first African trade union, the Industrial Workers of Africa. The history of the Communist Party since that time in building the progressive trade union movement in our country is indeed unparalleled. During that year, 1918, the formation of the Industrial Workers of Africa led to the Johannesburg bucket workers' strike. 152 workers were arrested and sentenced to 2 months imprisonment under the so-called Masters and Servants Act. S.P. Bunting, 5 other members of the International Socialist League, as well as several members of the African National Congress, then known as the South African Native National Congress, were also arrested. The International Socialist League was the largest component when different Marxist formations and comrades came together to form the Communist Party as a unitary Marxist-Leninist formation in 1921. This step forward was indeed inspired by the 1917 Great October Socialist Revolution and by the Communist International formed in 1919 following the revolution in Russia. The formation of the Communist International was an active expression of Communist Party organization in every country. The Communist International admitted, in terms of its policies at the time, only one affiliate per country that met its basic conditions of admission. This principle of unity was one ground upon which our party was established in 1921, championing before all others the principles of anti-imperialism, working class internationalism, and non-racialism. Now, as much as ever before, Comrade Chair and comrades, it is critical to recall the anti-imperialist foundations of our party. For much of the 1990s and early 2000s, as the SACP insistently noted at the time, the very notion of imperialism seemed to disappear from the strategic perspectives of our ally, the ANC. At that time, we noted Perhaps confused by the global celebrity of Comrade Nelson Mandela and the apparent embrace of our democratic transition by all and sundry, there was an unfortunate tendency to imagine that a new peaceful and more equal global order had emerged. But the collapse of the Soviet bloc of countries did not mean the disappearance of imperialism. Imperialism instead became more arrogant and more triumphalist. This aggressive arrogance is still in evidence today in the midst of the current coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. As imperialist-backed pharmaceutical companies are competing for mega profits by cornering the market on a vaccine and treatment. With the deepening global capitalist economic crisis, imperialism has become more aggressive, more dangerous. In the midst of what some are already calling the Great Recession, following the Great Recession of 2008, and as the US global hegemony begins to slide, US President Trump is determined to make America great again, in quotes. He is saber-rattling in the South China Sea. He is threatening to unleash war on Iran. He is deploying masked federal stormtroopers onto the streets of US cities against peaceful Black Lives Matter protests. And he was withdrawn from the World Health Organization. President Trump forgets that if you impose sanctions on Venezuela, if you tighten the embargo against Cuba, if you want to attack Iran, if you pull out of the World Health Organization, as Comrade Zweli can be our witness here, any one person who is infected by COVID-19 in any part of the world, that poses a threat to all the peoples of the world. Therefore, we need to remind President Trump that you can't deprive Cuba of the necessary medicines and hope that you will keep coronavirus outside of the United States. Now, it's against this background, then, in which our own Treasury and Reserve Bank have made what we believe as the SACP is a grievous mistake of taking on a dollar-denominated IMF loan, exposing our economy to further suffocation by imperialist interests. In the midst of important discussions within the ANC-led alliance, which as the SACP will remain firmly committed to, on an economic response to our many challenges, it is hard not to see that this behavior is an attempt to achieve through IMF conditionalities what cannot be achieved through a democratic discussion here at home. We have said as the SACP, and would like to repeat, it is very important that priority is given to the mobilization of trillions of rands of our own domestic resources before we consider foreign assistance or foreign loans. In confronting this situation, we need to draw courage and learn lessons from our past determination and resilience in our struggle for liberation and social emancipation. Indeed, we come a long way. The Communist Party of South Africa, which was renamed the SACP in 1953, when we reconstituted it underground, following the apartheid regime suppression of Communism Act of 1950, is here and alive and stronger. Throughout our 99 years, our party cadres have made a major contribution to the struggle for national liberation, national sovereignty, and democracy. As communists, we don't boast, but we state facts. We've just been reminded on the passing away of the last Rivonia trialist, Ubabu Mlangeni, recently, that all the Rivonia trialists were members of the South African Communist Party when they were tried in the Rivonia trial. That just is one example of the significant contribution of the SACP to the national liberation struggle in our country. To name other few areas also where we are proud of today celebrating 99 years, this would include the following. The Communist Party consistently, over the 99 years, exposed the connection between class exploitation of workers by capitalists, racist oppression, and patriarchy. The Communist Party was also the first political formation in South Africa to organize based on the principle of and to advance non-racialism. The Communist Party built progressive trade unions and a national liberation movement when in fact also we were forming part of it, which we still are, by the way. But we built the progressive trade union movement to bring an end to all facets of oppression and exploitation of one person or social group by another. It was the Communist Party that was the first political organization to be banned by the apartheid regime in South Africa in 1950. It was also the Communist Party, before all else in South Africa, that first advanced the struggle for one person, one vote. It was Communist Party activists like Dora Tamana who ran cooperatives in informal settlements in the 1940s and the 1950s, and Ruth First, who advanced progressive journalism and freedom of the press. As the SACP, we are proud that today in South Africa we have freedom of the press, not least because of the contribution of communists to this principle. That is why we don't accept opportunistic criticisms of the party when we engage the media critically. We engage the media critically sometimes because of our own experience, because we also are the champions for the freedom of the media that we today have in South Africa. Ruth First, for instance, was martyred. She was killed by the apartheid regime through a parcel bomb in Mozambique. She numbers amongst many, many martyrs of our struggle for liberation and social emancipation, including Johannes Nkosi, Vuyisile Mini, Alpheus Madiba, Basil February, Ahmed Timol, Matthew Koniwe, Chris Hani, and many others who were murdered by the colonial and apartheid regimes. The Communist Party continues to be a target of the exploiters and the corrupt. In recent years, decades after the end of white minority rule, there have still been assassinations and attempted hits on SACP activists. Most recently, the SACP lost members who were killed for being vocal against the looters of the VBS Mutual Bank in Limpopo province. Their only sin was to be in the forefront of our campaign against those involved in that VBS Great Bank heist. The SACP has also lost anti-corruption fighters killed in Mpumalanga, KZN, and other provinces. The SACP and our loyal activists on the ground, including our principled cadres in the African National Congress and in COSATU and in the broader democratic movement, together we won't be deterred by this violence. The looters of public resources must be rooted out and sent to jail to wear orange overalls. Today, as we celebrate the 99th anniversary of the SACP, we dip our red flag in honor of all those who have fallen. Let us pick up their fallen spears and intensify the struggle against corruption. Aluta continua. The SACP is no longer an underground organization and cannot be stuck in the past methods of organization. The SACP, like communists always do, must move with the times and be innovative. We want to say to the comrades who normally take a jab at us and say, we are no longer the party of Moses Kotane. Of course, if Moses Kotane were to wake up today and find the Communist Party that's exactly the same that he left when he passed away in 1978, he would disassociate himself from that Communist Party, because he would say, why have you been so asleep and not changing and adjusting and leading current conditions? You are still in 1960s when I was General Secretary of the SACP. In other words, those who then say, we are no longer the party of Moses Kotane, yes, we plead guilty. If you want the party of Moses Kotane, go to the museum. But we are the SACP of 2020, but that is still inspired by the vision and the exemplary leadership of leaders like Moses Kotane. Today, the SACP is larger than ever before. It has surpassed a membership of 311,000. It is continuing to grow. However, as we state in our program, the South African Road to Socialism, what we seek to build is a large but vanguard party capable of setting an example of discipline, commitment, and strategic capacity on all fronts of struggle. There is a big difference between such a sizable vanguard party and a mass party. We are not a mass party. We are a large party with a vanguard character. The SACP has grown because it has been active and attractive to an increasing number of activists who have grown because we have been prepared to speak up in defense of workers and the poor of our country. When our government unfortunately introduced a misguided gear macroeconomic policy in 1996, the SACP said, we need a state-led industrial policy. We said macroeconomic policy must be subordinated to and support national production development. We did this on a principled basis, being part of the alliance and not opportunistically walking away of the alliance, and sought to engage from within as well as from without by mobilizing the people on the ground. When our government at that time launched a misconceived privatization drive in the late 1990s, the SACP said, down with privatization, and we mobilized against it.
Etzebeth was cleared of wrongdoing relating to claims about a racially charged incident in Langeban. The 28-year-old had been accused of involvement in an incident of assault and racial abuse.
We said we need a strong democratic developmental state instead.
And according to a report in newspaper,
it was the SACP
a while ago, but the governing
body that started the vitally important land and agrarian transformation campaign post-1994 in the 2000s, challenging, among others, the so-called willing seller, willing buyer, and pushing for land redistribution. Again, it was the SACP that started the campaign for the transformation of the financial sector, resulting in important advance for the working class and the poor. It was the SACP that first exposed the existence of corporate state capture in our country. Back then, implicated elements, their factional networks and hangers-on, reacted by dismissing the existence of state capture. And some of them even embarked on something illegal and unethical by secretly and illegally tapping the phones of some of the leaders of the South African Communist Party. The SACP persisted. Again, it became the first to call for a judicial commission of inquiry into state capture. This call was rejected by the same networks and in addition by almost all the parliamentary parties who have big mouths today when they opposed this idea at the beginning. The former public protector reached the same conclusion as the SACP, prescribing the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into state capture following an incomplete investigation. And as part of the remedial action, the Chief Justice was to identify a judge to head this commission. It was at this stage that the SACP saw and also welcomed the change of attitude from many quarters that opposed its call for the establishment of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into state capture. We also welcome the latest step taken by President Cyril Ramaphosa to actually ensure that the information, there is sharing of information that is emerging from the Zondo Commission with the law enforcement agencies. We do honestly and frankly appreciate that because that's a very important step forward in the fight against corruption. 99 years of the SACP, but the struggle is not over. Many of the post-apartheid achievements experienced by millions of the working class and poor are under threat. We need to learn from the past, intensify our activism in the present, and build the future, build socialism in the here and now. A lot of advances have been made by our country and by our democratic government since 1994. As the SACP have been party to that, electricity, provision of free education, including bursaries, scholarships for higher education students who come from poor backgrounds, and many other achievements. As the SACP, we need to advance must include the following. We must strive to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic and ensuring that we do not return to the chronic crisis before the crisis, but we advance through a developmental path. This requires building a democratic developmental state with an internal capacity to serve the people. As the SACP, we also want to put it on record. We welcome the very decisive interventions made by government, led by the President, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, in the fight against COVID-19. And we also want to say to our people, however, government alone will not be able to defeat this pandemic. Our people need to cooperate with government and amongst themselves to ensure that we defend ourselves against the pandemic. Those who are not certain whether this pandemic kills, they now realize, because this pandemic is no longer just coronavirus, but today it has a name and a surname, because many people we know now and some of our families have unfortunately passed away. And of course, the SACP takes this opportunity to express our most sincere condolences to all those who have passed away and wishing those who are ill to recover soon. The other thing that is a priority to us, we must intensify the struggle to end the tenderization of the state and the corruption that it breeds and tackle its associated tendencies like tenderpreneurs and their COVID-19 manifestation, what some are referring to as COVIDpreneurs. We want to say that tenderization of the state and the corruption that it breeds constitutes one of the single biggest threats to our national liberation movement, the very same movement that brought about democracy in our country. We must say it's very sad today because in our movement in the 70s and the 80s, we were very proud that our revolution will not degenerate like some of the heroic revolutions that we were seeing degenerating. Nevertheless, we cannot proudly say so today, given the threat that is posed by corruption, tenderpreneurship within our own ranks, that unless we defeat corruption, we will actually bid our revolution goodbye. Therefore, during this 99th anniversary, we are calling upon the Alliance to unite and rid itself of corrupt elements. We are also calling upon the law enforcement agencies to act without fear or favor. Rising inequality, unemployment, poverty, and unequal development are indicators of the conditions of the masses, where a few have been empowered through state power, including state policy and tenders. The SACP is warning against this self-destructive trajectory of empowering a few whilst the majority continue to be impoverished. And we want to say again, our movement cannot be held hostage by the interests of the few, by greedy interests and their associated factionalism. A failure to reset the revolutionary historical mission will see a continuing decline until all our power is gone. The movement has to act in the interest of the masses, not in the private wealth accumulation interests of the few. We are also saying, as the SACP, during this 99 years, we must advance rapidly to building a national health insurance that serves all our people on an equal footing. Comrade Zweli Mkhize, you are sent today by the AC to give the message. You are also Minister of Health. As the SACP, we support you fully in the struggle to build an NHI. But we are aware that if we leave the struggle to government alone or to you alone, we won't be able to win this struggle. That is why the SACP commits to mobilize and be in the trenches together with millions of the workers and the poor of the country to say, we want the NHI not tomorrow, but now. We must push for building the publicly owned economic sector in the interest of the people. This requires that we build state-owned enterprises and companies that must be supported and be turned around to strive. In order for this to happen, the SACP will intensify its campaign against privatization in all its disguises, including neoliberal structural reforms. Such reforms directly, mostly, contradict the aim of building a capable democratic developmental state and are hell-bent against the interests of the working class. Our other priority is that we need to advance structural transformation to build, diversify, and raise the levels of national production in our country. This requires a decisive drive to industrialize South Africa, to transform the mining sector, to support high value-added manufacturing and beneficiation, for localization of production so that we create jobs, for the transformation of the financial sector, to name but a few programs that are needed to radically reduce inequality, unemployment, poverty, and unequal development. On the financial sector in particular, a campaign we have been waging for 20 years now as the SACP, we want to say it is very unhealthy that a developing country like ours only has 4 big monopoly banks, most of the time are not interested or are incapable of providing microfinance to support cooperatives and small and medium enterprises. No wonder that the guarantee that has been given by government of 200 billion rands to support SMEs has hardly been spent because it's been given to these big monopoly banks who do not know how to support SMEs and cooperatives. We are calling for a diverse financial sector that must also include cooperative banks as well as state banks where they are required. We want to say that in order to solve the economic crisis that we face, especially the crisis of the debt to GDP ratio, we must not follow the route that National Treasury seem to be embarking on, of increasing accumulation of foreign currency denominated debt as a solution. We are going to engage as the SACP robustly on this, both inside our alliance as well as outside the alliance. To defend our country's democratic national sovereignty, our fundamental right to self-determination, our hard-won democracy, the SACP rejects domestication of foreign economic agenda, including the neoliberal structural reforms as pushed by the IMF and the World Bank. Let us also combat with equal determination, if not more determination, the scourge of gender-based violence. As the SACP, on our 99th anniversary, we want to commit ourselves and call upon all progressive South Africans, not only women, but men as well, to join in the struggle against gender-based violence. In our own African languages, siyezigcizelele ukuthi lamadoda ahlukumeza abantu besifazane ishimane ovuka uvale abantu abangazi ukuthi omunye umuntu uphathwa kanjani. Sizoyilwisa lento ngayo yonke indlela esinayo siyamagomanisi asemzansi kulelizwe ukuthi masihlukaneni nokuhlukumeza abantu besifazane emadoda, abantu besifazane, abantu bokuthandwa, abantu bokunakekelwa, abantu abakwaziyo ukwenza izinto isikhathi esiningi, akubona abantu bokuhlukunyezwa nokuthi babulawa. We must also intensify the struggles against criminality, drug and substance abuse, because these things are destroying our society. But we cannot end, as we move towards ending our message, without mentioning this. We mention it at the end, not because it's the least important, but it's one of the most important messages we are sending to the workers of our country today. As the SACP, we are seriously concerned about the rising tide of the jobs lost, of the jobs bloodbath. Retrenchment notices in the private sector have been increasing at an alarming rate. The private sector overwhelmingly controls our economy. In the retail sector, workers at Edgar's, at Dion Wyatt, for example, are facing neoliberal restructuring, branch closures, and job cuts. In the metal sector, retrenchment notices have been rising. This is the case in many other sectors of our economy, wholly controlled by the private sector. It is very clear also that there are mismanagement and bad governance in the private sector itself, as highlighted by the rising insolvencies and liquidations. The recent statistics released by Stats SA on insolvencies and liquidations are shocking. It is also very clear that key sections of the private sector are forcing the working class to be the ones that absorb the negative economic and social impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. We strongly denounce this job loss bloodbath. We also wish to caution state entities not to follow the same route, as we are also equally concerned about planned retrenchments in many state-owned enterprises, including the SABC and the SAA. On the South African Airways, we are pleased to say that the rescue process seems to have finally been placed on a stronger footing. However, there are still challenges. There are problems in terms of governance and top management. A new board that meets competency requirements must be appointed as a matter of urgency. And the top senior management structures at the SAA must be inclusive. We want a management structure in all our state-owned entities that is inclusive in terms of gender and also inclusive in terms of race. The times of whites-only senior management must be over in our country. There is no other way for the working class to unite from all walks of life if we are to move forward. The SACP is today calling upon organized workers to work together to advance the common interest of all workers against economic exploitation, irrespective of their federations that they are affiliated to. Coming out of our 4th Special National Congress, we said we commit to deepening our alliance with COSATU, but we went further and said we call upon the whole progressive trade union movement, both in COSATU and outside, to unite and convene a joint national summit to discuss a common response to economic exploitation and the high levels of inequality, unemployment, and poverty. If COVID-19 as a dark cloud provides a silver lining that after this pandemic, we can build an inclusive economy, the time is now for workers to unite that the economy we built after COVID-19 is indeed inclusive. Singabasebenzi noma ngabe sikweziphi inyunyana sithi asihlanganeni ngoba impi esibhekene nayo yinye eyokulahlekelwa umsebenzi nendlala. Singavumeli ukuthi sisezinhlanganweni ezahlukene lento besisihlukanisa phakathi ngoba iyokwenza ukuthi lo mnotho esifuna ukwakha eNingizimu Afrika emva kwalomkhuhlane naleli gciwane elikhona fanele kube umnotho omusha la kuzozuza khona wonke umuntu, hayi la kuzozuza khona kuphela ogimbela kwesabo. Umyalezo wethu omkhulu lo namhlanje esiwusho kubasebenzi nanokuthi samakomanisi sizosebenza neCOSATU ekwenzeni isiqiniseko ukuthi abasebenzi abangekho enyunyaneni bayangena enyunyaneni. Let me conclude this message by expressing the SACP's unwavering solidarity with the people of Swaziland who are struggling for democracy. Our solidarity with the people of Western Sahara who are struggling for an end to occupation by Morocco. The people of Palestine who are struggling for an end to oppression and theft and occupation of their land by the apartheid regime of Israel. We call upon all democratic-oriented South Africans to condemn the Israeli regime for its oppression and suppression of the Palestinian people. On this day, we also wish to express our unwavering solidarity with the people of Cuba in defense of their right to the fundamental right to self-determination and against US imperialist aggression. We're also expressing our solidarity with the people of Venezuela against imperialist machinations by the United States and its puppets. And we want to say there is only one elected president in Venezuela, that's President Maduro, not any other puppet that is actually set up and supported by Western imperialism. We also want to express our solidarity with the people of Bolivia and President Evo Morales, who was kicked out through a coup, and our solidarity also with President Daniel Ortega and the people of Nicaragua. And indeed, on this day, solidarity with all the oppressed and the exploited people across the world. And with those words, we say socialism is the future, build it now. Amandla.
Away, two. Thank you very much, GS, with that powerful message and also launching our centenary while we're celebrating this historic day, a revolutionary anniversary, 99th anniversary for the South African Communist Party. Sibonga kakhulu. Umlayezo omuhle. It actually gives us various tasks.
All right, there you go. You heard from the General Secretary, Dr. Blade Nzimande, there on the occasion of the party celebrating its 99th anniversary. It's a virtual rally this year, and Dr. Blade Nzimande talking initially about, I guess, the theme of this year's celebrations. You were speaking about.
UGS sizomcela ke ukuthi aqhubeke futhi retla GS atswele pele request the GS to proceed and do a symbolic cutting of the cake just for us to conclude the event and close the session for the day. All comrades that have cakes can do that. I also have one here of the SACP. I don't know whether it can be visible. We will all do the cutting. It's just a pity we could all have a cake to share all together. We'll do the symbolic cutting of the cake and it will be the closing of the session. Thank you very much, comrades. Thanks for all those that joined the platform. Thanks for all that celebrated the 99th anniversary with us. We appreciate this day because it symbolizes the years of selfless struggle of the South African Communist Party.
Angikwazi ukubamba lutho mina sifusi. Okay. Ngabe ngibuyele nje kwezindaba. Siyasika ikhekhe la. Asifakile manje lokhoza.
Uzoleza njani ke kufakele? No pass. The two.
That's a little cold, mate.
Yeah, that's the knife. Use that one. I guess.
I'm enjoying virtually.
Virtually.
Those comrades by Joyce, I don't see their masks. They must put on the mask like those in Marisburg.
We are on masks.
No, those at Comrade Joyce place. Those in Marisburg are okay. Viva.
Why are you not?
Yeah, those ones are okay, no pala. You guys are okay there.
Yes, cheers.
Yeah, the contingent in Johannesburg is not even mask. They must put on their mask and observe social distancing all the time. Yes.
To 99 years.
And the cake.
Donating this cake, comrades, to an old age home here in Pietermaritzburg, and I went up to Aksemseni, the place of the kind. So that's where we are going to be donating this cake. Thank you very much. Amanda.
Thank you.
Yeah, being different. So that's another good questions.
Abafuna imedia capture lo